Hey, good evening, everyone. I was getting ready to say good afternoon because the sun is still bright outside, but good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 8th, 2023 meeting of CB11's Human Services Committee. My name is Isaac Scott, and I'm the chair of this committee. This meeting is called to order at 6:02 p.m. Tonight, we are joined by Community Associate Marlene Pierre, the staff liaison to our committee. To conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business, or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, a participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty to staff, and we will do our best to get everything fixed for you. The chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address that has already been stated out loud on the record during the meeting. When a member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Please also keep yourself on mute. Members of the public, if you have a question or a comment about subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand through Zoom and wait to be recognized. We will now take attendance by roll call. Board members, you can unmute yourselves and answer present when your name is called.
April Autry,
Present.
Juhab Chowdhury, Osendi Garcia,
Present.
thank you, Brandon Gillespie, Jewel Jones,
Present.
Jennifer Meyer is excused for this meeting, Arturo Perez,
Present.
Isaac Scott,
Present.
Robin Stration,
Present.
and Anne Marie Vasquez. We have a quorum.
Thank you. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and posted online. If there are no objections, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Committee members, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. The minutes for our last meeting were distributed to the committee members ahead of time by the board office. If there are no objections, we will adopt the minutes from that meeting. Committee members, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. And I don't see any hands raised. Okay. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the last committee meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB11 website. All right, let's get into our meeting. I believe that, and I really do believe, honestly, we say this a lot and it never happens, but I do believe that this will not be a long meeting. We will do our best to stick to the time limits for each section. Right now, we're going to go into our announcement section. The announcement sections are 3 minutes apiece. If you are able to, Robin, may you please be our timekeeper? Is that good? Okay, cool. Just give me 1 second. I got too many windows open and I want to get everything situated. The thing that bothers me is I can't see you guys. I want to see you guys. All right. Cool. The first announcement, I hope that we can all receive this announcement as more of us paying our respects as the Human Services Committee tasked with difficult issues such as this. I hope that we can, hear this announcement and give it some respect versus allowing it to be a somber moment here. But I wanted to, for anyone who is not aware, I wanted to announce the unfortunate death of Mr. Jordan Neely, who was 30 years old. He died on May 1st when he was held in a chokehold for several minutes. Mr. Neely suffered from schizophrenia. He was also homeless. He was also, he had more than like 40 interactions with the criminal justice system. So he had a lot of issues, and he was very much the type of people that we see in our community a lot, and a lot of the, there's a lot, I don't want to go deep into it at all because we're not going to take up, we're not going to get into no discussion about it. But what I did want to do was with respects to Mr. Neely and other people who have died as as it related to actions directly related to their mental illness and that being untreated, I was hoping that we could just take a moment of silence as a community, as a human services committee, to just acknowledge this as a serious issue, especially for other people who may also be dealing with similar issues. So if we will, could we just take a few seconds as a moment of silence, please? Thank you all very much for that. I also wanted to very briefly open up the floor for anyone who might have wanted to not argue about what they think about the issue, but more about an issue that came about that might educate the committee, some insight, some testimony about, shared experience. I just wanted to honor what took place, the tragedy, and just acknowledge that it's a shared experience amongst other, people in our community, and I don't want to breeze past it. So if anyone would like to offer anything very briefly. Uh, I see we have our vice chair on. Since your hand popped up first, Pilar, I'm going to go to her and then come back to you. Is that okay? Jessica, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just really quick, thank you for this opportunity. I just wanted to say, I'm getting on the bus, but my own uncle was homeless for a good portion of time, and I think it's important to recognize that anyone can be, homeless at any time, and then it happens to people who have supportive families, and I can't even imagine what would have happened if something like this had happened in his family. So just to bring a little bit of awareness to the fact that people can be in these positions without any necessary circumstances. So thank you, Isaac.
I'm sorry, Jessica, thank you very much. We did not hear some of the beginning parts of what you said because of the background noise. I wonder if you could repeat some of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just really quickly, I think just to share that my own uncle had been homeless for a while and suffered from mental health issues and eventually passed away from suicide. So, even with supportive family structures and, the right tools, people's family members can become homeless. And I was just saying that I couldn't imagine something like this happening to anyone in my family. And I just appreciate the moment of silence and recognition of this issue.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, being willing to be vulnerable like that, and then also repeating it. Forgive me. But thank you very much for sharing that in the space. Pilar, please.
Yeah, I think just similar to Jessica, and for me, I've myself have been illegally evicted and been homeless for it was short period of time, but I still was homeless and it was a real challenge. And every hearing I go to or every time I'm somewhere, I'm constantly talking about the need for shelter and how that could really impact our mental health. And as a strong person, I was able to get through it. But I will tell you, there were many times that I was just like really frustrated and thought about quitting. And when I spent some time in Rikers Island, I met a woman who, became homeless because she lost her job. And she couldn't get another job because she was homeless. And then she started doing drugs because she was really, trying to numb herself from all the issues of even being on the street, because the shelters are not the answer, really, at least, yeah, my opinion. But all that to say is that she talked about how being in jail, really was better than being in the streets, even though she also didn't have good food and it's jail. But it's this constant thing. And I just want to encourage board members and others, anyone who's attending, is to really, we have a serious, it's bigger than whatever a pandemic is with this housing. And a lot of it is impacting our youth. And we don't talk about that enough, and how this affects them. And you could kind of see the impacts now with a lot of the violence that youth are a part of. And I won't take too much time, but I do really think we really need to we need to organize, and we also need to really have these elected officials really get to the root of the problem, because they keep putting band-aids on gunshot wounds, and it's not doing anything. If your governor, anyway, I will stop there. It's just shelter is probably one of the main things you need to keep your mental health going, on top of, food and air and water. But yeah, so thank you, Isaac, for also honoring a human being who, because of the system working the way it's supposed to work against us again, then now left another Black person of color, murdered.
Thank you.
No justice.
Thank you. Thank you, Pilar. Cindy, please. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for starting this meeting on this note. It's highly appreciated. I have to even though this is, I do not want to be somber. I don't want to come across emotional, but I am, and I'm very angry. And this level of anger not only comes from personal experience, but actually getting to a safer place and starting advocating for those who aren't able to do that for themselves, or don't have the language or the resources or the time. And then to hear about Jordan Neely's passing, as I'm watching the governor and the mayor sign in the budget, that some of the resources will be coming back into the community, but we have larger issues coming in the horizon. I am grateful for every single person who is able and willing and has the emotional stamina to continue to do this level of work. I commend you, I uplift you, I support you. Please take care of yourselves as you're continuing to do this work, because it's like Pilar mentioned, this is only going to get worse. Our housing crisis, the pandemic crisis, and the budgeting crisis that we're not addressing, how they're renaming programs meant to cater to houseless individuals like Homestat, that they're supposed to be giving these resources. The New York Police Department is supposed to be providing these resources specifically here in East Harlem. But what they're doing is they're shifting the names of the programs and claiming twice the amount of the budgeting. So please, those who have the stamina, those who have the will, those who have the health and the ability, review the names that they're giving to these programs because they're not actually doing their jobs. So we're going to have a continued issue. Jordan Neely is just a name that we know now. So again, anyone with the ability, the health and stability to please review those who have been buried on Hart Island. Because those are the ones we don't know about. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cindy. Thank you. And I thank you, everybody who has weighed in and has added something of substance to, you know, to get our meeting started with. Again, this is, okay, I see one more hand. This is the last hand I'm taking. Miss Glover, very briefly, please.
Good evening. I just tuned in about 2 minutes ago. So, but I'd like to say you have some really smart people on this board, on this committee, because they see that it's going to have to come down to the birds of a feather flocking together, because the criminals, these district leaders and what have you, are linking up, taking over our tennis associations, and doing things politically now. So that means the work that resident engagement and all these people and CCOP and all them folks, the work that they supposed to be doing, organizing the tennis association and spending that TPA money, it's not happening. And so what's going to happen, the folks that are complaining about how we don't stick together as a people and what we're not doing and all this kind of thing, those birds are going to have to link up with like-minded people to get the work done, because it's a dangerous situation. You're dealing with politicians who have been in there and they can get you eliminated. So you have to get with, if you're just one person, the work is not going to get done. But if you got a bunch of birds that believe what you believe, y'all can get the work done. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for ending us off on the word of unity and how we can build our individual capacity, our community capacity by coming together. Thank you for that, everyone. The second, I'm going to move us along in our agenda. The second announcement is that on April 20th, 2023, Mayor Adams issued Emergency Executive Order 387, which extends the COVID emergency declaration for 30 days through May 2022. So same old, y'all. You know, we on Zoom until further notice. So every meeting before and up until May 20th will be virtual, pending, you know, another emergency executive order being signed. And I do, you know, very briefly, I know that there's discussion in executive about taking a position on making this more of a long-standing thing. So it's not like every day, every 30 days, it's an extension. Whereas if we want to take a position on it being, you know, indefinitely on Zoom or whatever it is, but this whole inconsistency doesn't allow us an opportunity to prepare for if they decide that they want, you know, not to extend this anymore. So keep y'all posted on all of that. So no more announcements from my end. I wanted to open up the floor for any announcements from the public. Yep, I do see, I'm gonna call out some people. I see Tamika Map on. I'm hoping that she can also give an announcement. But are there any announcements first from our committee members before I go into the public? No, going once, going twice. Okay, I'm gonna go over to Ms. Glover. You have an announcement, or is that an old hand?
Yes, I have an announcement. May 25th, Taina, she's the chair for the environmental committee at Metropolitan. She's having a symposium from 10 to 4. The symposium is environmental. I'm looking for the flyer so I can tell you the detail. But it's a symposium on the environment at East Harlem, how the levels of the lead and different things are higher here than in all of the boroughs. And it's called environmental something, something. But in any event, I could try to send you the flyer. I'm not that technical with this computer and stuff, but it's really, it's at Metropolitan. Anybody that wants the information, that you could drop your email here and I can send it to you. It's going to be May 25th from 10 to 4.
Okay, well, when you get I know you're going to be on the call for a while. So when you get the information, just when you get a chance to sit down, just type up the name of it and how we can register and put it in the chat. Or
yeah, because you do have to register.
Yeah, I'm sure. Or if you want to just email it to one of us, you can email it to myself or Marlene, and we'll forward it to folks before the 25th.
Okay, good. I'll do it that way.
Okay, cool.
All right. Thanks.
Yep, no problem. Are there any other announcements before we transition into our informational updates? Going once, going twice. All right. So we will have our first informational update from the department. Excuse me. What's this? I think, Marlene, this is an old one of the informational updates, an old slide. But we'll start with that. Yeah, I think this slide is old.
Just forget about the first bullet, but the second
Okay.
bullet is still, it's DOHMH and moving forward.
Cool, thanks.
Mhm.
So who do we have on from DOHMH? I'm sorry, I haven't looked from our Department of Health and Mental
Okay,
Hygiene.
we're supposed to have Kenneth. I don't see Kenneth.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we can keep it moving and we'll make space for Kenneth if he has some time to join. Our next set of updates is from East Harlem COAD. Who do we have on from East Harlem COAD, our disaster management organization?
I don't see any one from COED either.
I don't either. Okay. So we make some space for them as well. We can keep it going to Borican Neighborhood Neighborhood Health Center. Is Anne-Marie with us today, or will Art, will you be giving updates again?
Yeah, I can give a brief update.
Thank you.
Just real quickly, what's new at Borican? We reopened our cardiology service. So we have a cardiologist now on board again at Borican, as well as the optometry service. We're continuing to do COVID-19 vaccine testing at our side door location, as well as the COVID-19 boosters. In July, we're going to start Open Streets by Borican at 123rd Street, and that Open Streets will be open Monday through Friday from 12 to 4. It'll be a great opportunity to see everything we do at Borican. We'll have, it's like a mini street fair. We'll have tabling outside and information. And that's it for today. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Art. I appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions for Art regarding Borican Neighborhood Health Center and the updates presented? Okay, I'll keep us moving. Thank you again, Art. Appreciate you very much. Pilar, are you with us this evening? You
See,
are. Yes, you are.
All right, I will make it quick because there's actually not too much to share since I last came. It's been budget season, so there's a lot of stuff going. Like OCM is asking for money, especially to be in charge of lead the enforcement around the illicit shops. So similar to like how you see HPD, like agencies like HPD, they have like their own enforcement team. So it's not criminal enforcement, it's more civil. So higher fines. I haven't been able to catch up to see what the governor has actually put in the budget regarding what type of fines these businesses will now get, because before they were kind of below. I think now, again, don't quote me on this, but it will be like something like, I don't know, like 20,000 a day or five, maybe 20,000 is extreme, but they'll be getting fined per day for these illegal shops, because there's only, just want to remind the board and the community, there are only 9 legal dispensaries in New York State. All the other ones are what they call illicit shops, meaning they do not have a license to sell cannabis. Now, will they get a license later this year when the application's fully open? I'm not sure, who knows, but right now in New York State, there are only 9. Updated regulations, if some of you remember, your chair, I think back in February, asked the board to sign on to the regs, the proposed comments they made. Those regulations have been amended according to the comments they received, and they're going to release the amended regulations this Thursday. And then from that, we have 40 days, but from what we have been told, these are the final regulations, and we can anticipate for the full cannabis market, to the application market, to probably open sometime either late summer, early fall. There are some challenges though that farmers are having, the ones that have been granted conditional license, but I don't know.
30-second warning. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So my other last thing, since I got 30 seconds, I want to encourage too, because there's something really unfortunate happening on 125th Street. The 125th bid is trying to, we hear that they're going to sue the OCM, the Office of Cannabis Management, because they do not want the dispensary on 125th. And I feel like that's not a right thing. One, because they talk about preserving the culture when the culture has become very corporate, and this would be a small business. And so I plan to reach out to Xavier and others, but I think, and Barbara Askins, but I think that the 125th Street bid should not be suing the OCM and also creating more challenges or barriers while they're trying to create and build out this new industry. So if any folks have connections to the 125th bid or Barbara Askins, please give her my information, because I really like to understand what her real concerns are. Yes, Elizabeth. Yeah, that's right, Elizabeth. They're suing to stop illegal cannabis dispensary for 125th Street. So I just also want to note that would be a small business owner who's also been impacted by the war on drugs that they're trying to stop. And honestly, from when I was at the last meeting, it didn't sound like they had real justified reasons besides that, yes, the mental instability on 125th Street these days are really impacting the community, but it has nothing to do with cannabis. It has to do with a lot of the things I spoke of earlier: lack of shelter, lack of food, and lack of jobs. So it's not to do because of a cannabis shop coming to 125th. And so, yeah.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Pilar. Are there any other questions? Any other questions? Thank you. Okay, cool. So, Pilar, thank you again for the updates. I really appreciate you. Thank you. And
And if I can
Yep.
encourage you, Isaac, if you
Yep.
and others of the board could also really encourage the other members to really create a cannabis task force. I'm committing, giving my time to be supportive if something like that's here, because the market will be opening fully come later this year. And I don't know, again, what you prepare, how you guys are preparing for. So yes, I just want to say that last thing. Thank you again.
Thank you. I'm putting that I'm writing that down in my notes now. Thank you very much for that. And that's exactly what we need, recommendations on how we can mobilize and get ahead of, the issues that we foresee or want to be able to give correct input on. Thank you very much, Pilar. Appreciate you very, very much. Okay, with that, I believe that we are ready to transition into our first presentation. Okay, this first presentation is going to be given by Mr. Chris Carrillo, who is from Ascendant Neighborhood Development. Mr. Carrillo, am I correct with the Mr. and the Mrs.? Forgive me, sometimes I just impose those. I apologize.
It is Mr. and it's pronounced Cirillo.
Cirillo.
Close enough. You could just call me Chris.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. If you are ready, you have the opportunity to share screen. The presentation, okay, I see we have two different times here. Did we, well, could I just want to ask Marlene, did we already? No, I believe we agreed last time that presentations would be 20 minutes in total, 15 minutes for the presentation and like 5 given for Q&A. Is that cool, Mr. Cirillo?
That's fine. I will go as quickly as I can.
Cool. Thank you very much. But don't go too quickly. We do want to get the information. Thank you.
All right. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up. Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. So again, my name is Chris Cirillo. I'm the Executive Director of Ascendant Neighborhood Development Corporation. We are a nonprofit organization based in East Harlem on 116th Street. We are celebrating our 35th anniversary this year. We develop and preserve affordable housing in the neighborhood. And we are started the ULURP process about a month ago, a little over a month ago, for our one of our pipeline projects, and we're here to present on it tonight. We have presented to a number of Community Board 11's committees about this project, both in the past, and we are either presenting again or about to present again in the next week or two to all of those committees. I don't believe we've come to Human Services before, so this might be the first time that the Human Services Committee has received a detailed briefing on the project, but members who are on other committees may have seen this presentation, and you all might have heard the presentation that we did at the last full board meeting along with HPD. So I will go through it and get started. So I will kind of skip over this part to save time, but as I mentioned, Ascend is a nonprofit based in the neighborhood. We have just under 700 affordable rental apartments in our current portfolio, and we have over 2,000 apartments that we're working on in our pipeline, including new construction projects and 2 large NYCHA packed revitalization projects as well. And this map just gives an overview of the areas where we've been working and the locations of our existing portfolio, buildings, and our pipeline sites. So a lot of geographic coverage in the work that we do in the neighborhood. And the project that I'm presenting on tonight, the Share NYC project, proposed for a site that Ascendant owns on East 106th Street. For this project, we are partnered with another nonprofit organization called the Ali Forney Center. And their mission is to protect LGBTQ youth who have experienced or are currently experiencing homelessness and housing instability, to provide services to those young people, and to help them transition to stable housing and stable lives with access to job training, education, and other services. Just a little bit more about the Ali Forney Center. They are the largest nonprofit providing services to LGBTQ youth in the city and actually in the country. And they have been working in the field for over 20 years now. So the project that's currently in ULURP, and the application is technically an application from the city's Department of Housing Preservation and Development on behalf of Ascendant and Ali Forney as the co-developers of the project. It was certified on March 27th. The proposed project is a residential building with 32 affordable rooming units, and I'll talk about what rooming units are in a minute when I share the plans for the project. plus one building manager's unit, so a total of 33 units in the building. And it will be developed under HPD's supportive housing loan program. And the two land use actions for which HPD is seeking approval to facilitate this project are acquisition of previously city-owned land that's part of Lot 29 on Block 1655, and then disposition of that same site back to an affiliate of Ascendant. And so the reason that HPD needs to take these two actions, acquisition and disposition, is that the site that we are proposing to develop is currently a vacant lot that was disposed of previously to Ascendant when HPD disposed of 3 vacant buildings that our organization rehabbed back in the mid-90s as affordable rental housing. And at the time, HPD didn't have a program or a plan for new construction on this site. And so it was sold as sort of accessory vacant land along with the adjacent building, which we rehabbed in the mid-90s and it operate as affordable rental housing. And so in order for us to develop a new construction project on this site, HPD needs to reacquire the property and then redispose of it to us with approvals in place that contemplate new construction. So it's sort of a technicality, but essentially when we're ready to close the project and all the financing is in place, HPD will briefly reacquire it from us and then redispose of it to us. But those two actions require ULURP, so that's why we are proceeding through ULURP for this project. But a little bit more about the context of why we proposed the project that we're presenting tonight. Under former Mayor de Blasio, HPD initiated an initiative called Share NYC, and they released a request for expressions of interest in 2018. And the idea was to seek new models of shared housing. And so this is housing where kitchens and or bathrooms are shared among the residents of units in the building. So, you know, you may all know, we used to have a lot of housing like this in our housing stock in the city, SROs, rooming houses, other types of housing where people may have had their own individual sleeping and living space, but where they might have shared their kitchen and or their bathroom with other residents in the building. And we got away from developing housing like this, and a lot of the housing that we had in that housing stock was demolished or renovated into more traditional apartments, all with individual kitchens and bathrooms. But this was very affordable housing for people, often single individuals and others, when they first moved to the city, whether from someplace else in the country or as immigrants to the city. So we've kind of lost this affordable housing stock over the years. And so HPD has been looking at trying to look at whether new models of this are viable. And so in October of 2019, HPD selected 3 winning responses from this request for expressions of interest, one of which is the project that Ascendant and Ali Forney proposed. And so all 3 of those projects are moving forward. They're still in various stages of pre-development. None of them have started construction yet. And I'm going to talk a little bit more now about our project. So as I mentioned, we've certified in March. We're hoping to complete ULURP by early fall. That will put us on track to apply for low-income housing tax credits, which are part of the funding package to facilitate this new construction project. That application will be due next spring. And assuming that we receive an allocation of tax credits next spring, those decisions will be made over next summer. That would put us on track to close the project and start construction, hopefully in fall or early winter of 2024. So what are we proposing to build? We're proposing a 10-story new construction project on a 27 by 100 foot vacant lot. The site is located on the south side of East 106th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenues, closer to 2nd Avenue. And this is actually close to the location where the 106th Street station will be on phase 2 of the 2nd Avenue subway. The building will contain 4 shared housing units, and each of those shared housing units will have a kitchen. There will be 8 rooming units within each of those shared housing units, 4 on each floor. And those 4 shared housing units are all duplexes. Residents will share those common kitchens, and they will share bathrooms within their shared unit. So all in total, on the 3rd through 10th floors of the building, there will be 32 affordable rooming units. And then on the 2nd floor, there will be 1 live-in manager, building manager's unit. It's 100% affordable supportive housing financed under HPD supportive housing loan program. And as with all HPD projects, we as the developer and our general contractor will be required to meet all of HPD's local hiring and MWBE targets for the development. A little bit more about the site. This is just an overhead view looking down at the site highlighted in the middle of your screen. Again, on the south side of 106th Street, facing across the street to Franklin Plaza, and just west of 2nd Avenue. These are 2 images looking from, on the left side is looking directly at the site from 106th Street, looking south. The 5-story building to the right is the existing building that Ascendant owns and operates as affordable rental housing. And then the view on the right of your screen is looking sort of diagonally southwest from across 2nd Avenue, looking at the southwest corner of 2nd Avenue and 106th Street and highlighting where the new building will be built. So how we got to the concept that we have, we were initially looking at developing this site as traditional supportive housing under HPD's supportive housing loan program, which typically creates new studio apartments where each individual resident has their own studio apartment with their own kitchen or kitchenette and their own bathroom. And so on the left side of your screen, you see a layout of what we were looking at when we were looking at it as sort of traditional housing. There's a lot of wasted space in this layout. And so that was one of the reasons why when the Share NYC RFEI came out, we were really excited and felt like we could develop better design, working with our architects and working with Ali Forney, looking at it as shared housing. And so on the right side of your screen, you see one of the duplex apartment layouts, shared housing apartment layouts. So on the ground floor, which is the floor plan on the left, you see the shared living space, a large shared kitchen, 2 shared bathrooms, and 4 individual rooming units that will each be occupied by an individual resident. There's also laundry on the ground floor of each of the duplexes. And then to the right, you see the 2nd floor of each of these duplex shared units, which has some workstations, 2 additional shared bathrooms, and 4 additional rooming units. The building at new construction will be fully elevated, completely accessible, and built to enterprise green community green building standards.
Sorry, Chris, 3 minutes. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, I will keep moving quicker. So these are the complete layouts. We have a partial cellar floor. The ground floor contains the lobby and several of our mechanical rooms because the site is in a flood zone. So we have to have our mechanical space elevated for resiliency purposes. The ground floor also includes a shared community room, a multi-purpose room that will be available to residents, and also landscaped green space outside in the rear yard. And the 2nd floor will contain the building managers, the live-in building manager's apartment, as well as office space for Ali Forney staff, who will staff the building 24/7 to provide services for the residents of the building. Again, this is just a close-up of the shared housing units. I'll keep moving. Just a rendering view on the left and a section view on the right. And I'll quickly run through some renderings to give you a sense of what this is all going to look like. This is the lobby at the ground floor. Another view of the lobby and the reception area. The multi-purpose room on the ground floor that can be configured in multiple ways for different purposes to serve the residents of the building. The entrance to the office space on the 2nd floor for the Ali Forney staff. This is a view of the double height living room space in one of the shared apartments. So the ground floor, the living space, the kitchen, and 4 of the rooming units, and up the connecting staircase, the additional 4 rooming units, and the workstations for resident use. This is just a view looking out from the living room. the upper level of that shared space, the shared common kitchen, a couple of views. And this is a view inside one of the individual rooming units. So these will be occupied by individual residents. The building is slated to serve young people between the ages of 16 and 24. A view of the exterior courtyard space, landscape space for resident use. And then just a quick view of, this is the site as it currently exists with a temporary mural installation that we worked on with another nonprofit, Groundswell, and clients of the Ali Forney Center to sort of announce the coming of this project and to beautify the site until we can start construction again, which will hopefully start next year. And I'll end there. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions, but hopefully I stayed within my 15-minute time.
Perfection. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cirillo. I appreciate the presentation. I guess I think it would have been a better use of the time for this committee if we could have took that time to hear more about the services, the supportive services that the young people would be receiving, from the staff of the Ali Forney Center, because that would be most relevant to the purview and scope of this committee. You know what I mean? Like, I do appreciate all of that information, but a lot of the questions you may hear now are going to be related to those services, which was my initial question, was like, could you tell us a little bit more about the services? Is there someone from the Ali Forney Center on that could tell us a little bit about the services that the young people would be receiving?
I'm just checking. I know it wasn't, I'm not sure we were able to confirm that someone from Ali Forney was able to attend tonight. So I will do my best to answer those questions. And obviously any that I can't answer, we will provide answers back to the committee. I apologize.
No worries, no worries.
And
well,
I believe we also have representatives from HPD here as well to answer any questions related to housing and land use.
Okay. Well, the first initial questions I had were just about the particular services the young people were receiving, and then my other set of questions were more geared towards the, like, how does, if with respects to how much they would be comfortable sharing about the screening processes for when you have shared living spaces, because I know just being in some of those spaces, like when I came home from prison, I had to live in like a 3/4 home, what they call it, and it was a shared space, with that same capacity, and there was no screening, so they sort of just threw you in there with anybody because you all needed somewhere to go. So I wonder if it was sort of like, how did folks just ensure that people are being paired up, in the right spaces, especially with respects to gender identity and things of that concern. Those were the things that I was wondering about. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in a shared living situation, making sure that people are comfortable with the people that they are living with, that there are, kind of clear ground rules that everyone agrees to about responsibilities, about behavior, about, sharing spaces and how to maintain them is all critically important. And Ali Forney Center has significant experience within their, kind of the work that they currently do. They run transitional housing for young people, scattered site, as well as a building called the B. Arthur Residence, which is located in the East Village. And so the shared apartments there are pretty similar to what we have, except in the case of the Share NYC project that we're developing, residents of our building will have individual rooming units. So at the B. Arthur Residence, residents there share bedrooms, and then have shared kitchens amongst all the residents of the apartment and shared living spaces. So in our building, everyone will have their own individual rooming unit and then we'll share the common spaces. So, but Ali Forney has a lot of experience having operated the housing that they have in their existing portfolio, with really clear guidelines about, how residents need to interact with each other, mediation services to address situations where, conflict arises, clear responsibilities about, resident obligations for cleaning, for maintenance, for respecting other residents' need for quiet time, about guests and, who's allowed in the building and when. So, they've really thought through a lot of that. Again, I'm sorry that we weren't able to confirm someone from Ali Forney tonight, but, I'm happy to follow up with them again and get more detail about all of that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. I'm going to keep this line going. I see, Anne Marie, you had your hand up for a while now. Is it regarding this presentation or? Okay, so I'm not sure. Okay, so okay. Anne Marie? No. Okay, so I'm gonna move it along to John Green. I see his hand is up. How you doing, John?
Hi, Chair. I wanted to suggest that perhaps any additional information that you may need, have about, we want to know about services, check the recording of the Housing Committee meeting. That may give you some more information as well.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, John. I appreciate that. Definitely appreciate that.
I mean, and I will admit I am a poor substitute for Ali Forney team members themselves, but I will say, having worked with them on developing this proposal and presenting it multiple times with members of the Ali Forney team, they provide a whole suite of wraparound services, all of the things that young people who have experienced homelessness or housing instability, need in order to, stabilize their lives and then be able to transition over time to independent living. They run a drop-in center that serves people who, very often, may be in crisis and really need, their very basic needs met. And then as people are able to stabilize their housing situation, moving into transitional housing, and then moving into something like this, which would be sort of the next step, moving on from transitional housing to more permanent housing, but still housing with supportive services provided. It's given the population, young people anywhere from 16 to 24, it's support in helping people to complete their education or move to the next step in their education. It's assistance with job, connections to job training and career services. It's mental and physical health needs. So it really is a comprehensive suite of services that the Ali Forney team provides, and they'll be able to provide that to residents within the space that's in the building, as well as being able to refer people out to other organizations that they work with and have relationships with already.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to keep it moving. I see we have I see Elizabeth Jarrett. Can you unmute yourself?
Hi.
Hey,
Do
did you?
Do you need my face or I don't know?
No, we know. We just need your voice. Please
Okay.
ask your question.
Chris, I have a question. Why does East Harlem continue to be oversaturated with social service agencies? East Harlem is 1.4% of New York City's population, and yet we have 14% of the social service organizations in our neighborhood.
Well, I mean, I think that's, maybe a bigger question than I can answer. And what we're proposing is permanent supportive housing. So it's not.
Why East Harlem?
It's
Why not another neighborhood?
Miss Jarrett, I'm gonna ask that. Hold on for a second, Chris. Miss Jarrett, I'm gonna ask you not to cut him off while he's talking,
Perfect.
please.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
So again, what we're proposing is not a social service agency that is providing, services to a citywide or neighborhood-wide population. It is permanent supportive housing where services are provided for the residents of the building. And the reason that we have proposed this project for this site is we are a nonprofit based in East Harlem. We own this site already, which is one of the requirements of the Share NYC process that HPD laid out. It was an underutilized site. It's a small site. And so really the only way to maximize development on the site is to create smaller apartments. The site doesn't lend itself to creating larger size apartments. And so very early on, we looked at it as most viable as a supportive housing project. But again, permanent supportive housing with services provided for the residents of the building. So very different than an agency or an organization that is opening up space that's providing services to, to a broader population and attracting clients from, a broader, section of the city.
So with respects to, thank you, Chris, for that. So with respects to Mrs. Jarrett's concern, the people who will, the young people who will occupy the space will be all from East Harlem?
Well, there is a process that HPD oversees in conjunction with the service provider, in this case, Ali Forney, for supportive housing, which is different than the housing lottery system for affordable housing.
Okay.
In a typical HPD sponsored affordable housing project, there is a 50% preference for current community board residents for applying for the apartments. In the situation where it's supportive housing, the referrals are coming through the city's Human Resources Administration. And so, the people who qualify for the supportive housing might be coming from outside the neighborhood, but also could be coming from inside the neighborhood. Obviously, being based in East Harlem as the lead partner on this project and working with the Ali Forney Center, our goal is, within the process that exists for housing like this, to maximize, knowledge about the project, make sure that people are prepared to apply for it, who qualify for it, and serve as many local area residents as we possibly can.
Thank you very, very much, Chris, for answering that question. I'm going to move us along.
Can I
Joseph,
comment?
I'm going to actually, yes, you can.
Okay,
But
I'm
could you
just
please,
concerned because I've lived here
Miss
for
Jarrett,
17
Miss
years.
Jarrett,
I'm concerned that
Miss Jarrett,
neighborhoods of color
Miss Jarrett.
continue to be impacted.
Okay, so I'm gonna, so I will let you all know that I'm gonna assert that we all be respectful on the line, and we're not gonna talk over each other. What I was going to ask Miss Jarrett before she continued to speak over me was if she could just raise her hand to respond. I was gonna give her a chance to respond. I'm not now. I'm gonna move us along to Mr. Joseph DiMedetto. You can go ahead and say what you wanted to say, Joseph, or ask your question.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if in any way, if it makes sense to work with Silberman School of Social Work on this project. Just for those that don't know, I mean, that's an institution that's based in East Harlem that I think in many ways is underutilized or, or maybe doesn't partner as much as it should. But my point being that there's a gender and sexuality center that opened up at Silberman School of Social Work. And I believe one of the professors, Jama Sheldon, actually focuses on homeless LGBTQ youth. So I'm wondering if it would make sense to partner or if they have already, just, because I think it's important to have, actions that are data and policy driven, right? So, I think it's important to have a bit of, academia involved in some of these discussions.
Thank you very much.
That's a great comment and suggestion, and we'd definitely love to follow up with you about that.
I don't work for them. I'm just, that's just something I'm aware of. Yeah.
Yes. I actually
But I
agree.
can connect
Yeah.
you with them. I went to school there. So
That would be great.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you. And please let me know if you need any help with that, because I was also going to just double down on what you said in that. I do also agree that that is a very underutilized resource right here in East Harlem. I did a lot of work with some of the professors there and some of the curators from the Hunter East Harlem Gallery, which is on the first floor of that building. So yes, thank you for that, Joseph. I'm going to keep us moving. Delia, please, can you unmute yourself? Okay. Delia Centron. Okay, so I'm going to keep this moving. Erica Donovan.
Yeah, thanks. I just have a brief question about the characterization as permanent housing and what happens. It sounds like people will age out at 24 and what that transition would be and how we as a community can support folks, young people making the transition to permanent housing at that point. And also about the size of the individual units, the rooms that people will have living in this site. They look kind of small to me, to be honest.
It is permanent supportive housing. So unlike transitional housing, residents will have leases for their rooming units, and they will need to qualify based on their age in order to move into the building, but no one will be kicked out if they turn 25 while they're in residence. The idea is that this is sort of the next step of housing for this population, again, to be more independent, still have services available, but hopefully to help residents then make a transition into more independent living. And presumably they will want to do that. Shared housing, we believe, and Ali Forney believes, is a good sort of housing typology for the clients that they serve, who come from very unstable housing situations and need the support and the home-like environment that we're trying to create in this project. But that at a certain point, people will, they won't age out in the sense that they'll be kicked out if they are over 24, but that they will likely be stabilized in their lives and be ready to move into more independent living when they're ready to do so. Obviously, Ascendant is an affordable housing provider based in the neighborhood. It'll be several years before this building is actually completed. I mentioned construction starting hopefully at the end of 2024. It will probably be another 2 years before it's occupied. So we're talking about 2026. Then people will lease up the building. People will be there for a while. So it's a little bit in the future to be thinking about them then leaving the building. But hopefully as they're stabilized and ready to move on, they may be able to find housing in our portfolio or elsewhere in the neighborhood and continue to be, residents, but move into a more traditional independent living setting once they're stabilized and ready to do so.
Thank you, Chris. I want to go to Jewel Jones.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chair Scott. I just want to say that when we talk, I think this is an excellent project, all for it, and especially when we're talking about our LGBTQ youth. And I just want to, I put in the chat that when we talk about our neighboring supportive services, Metropolitan Hospital has an LGBTQ Pride Center, and that's an entity that I think that should be reached out to as well. We can talk about Mount Sinai, but just like more closer is Health and Hospitals, Metropolitan Hospital, and all the information about the Pride Center can be found in the link that I put in the chat. So just want to give that plug. And I'd have to say that I am a member of the Community Advisory Board at Metropolitan Hospital. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions as it relates to that LGBTQ Health Center. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jewel. Very, very appreciative of you. Delia, are you able to unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, great. All right. Hello, everyone. I appreciate everyone's time on this call. I have some concerns. Well, a big question. How is it that we seem to be getting, entities that that impact the neighborhood negatively? Why are we not getting more commercial entities to contribute to the tax base? Where is the senior housing? I have concerns about, dispensaries and, injection sites. And now, you understand, I'm just trying to, why are we not getting like the full demographics, sir? You know what I mean?
Ms. Cintron, I'm going to interject right now. And at the top of the meeting, I asked everyone to keep their comments germane and to the point of the discussion. I think that you have went out of the purview of Mr. Cirillo. I think that your concerns are very valid, and there are different parts of this meeting where they may and will be addressed. But I think that if you have a question specifically for what Chris has come before you to present, I would also ask, as part of the human services, as part of the culture here, that we just keep in mind who we're talking about. You started your whole line of communication on, why are we, you prefaced the LGBTQ youth that possibly be living there as not good contributors. And I don't think that that's fair to the folks who may be occupying that space. So I think with respect, can you please ask the question that you actually have for Chris? If not a question, then
yes, then
thank you.
Okay. I can do that. Okay. All right. If this is a youth entity, right? You're saying the demographic is from a teenage to 24 years old.
Correct.
What safety measures? I'm a senior. What safety measures? There've been a lot of things that have impacted the neighborhood negatively. I want to be assured of my safety. Is there going to be safety?
Yeah, well, yes, let me address that.
Like metal detectors that, I'm thinking that.
Let me address that question first. And then I actually have an answer to your earlier broader question. So yes, there will be security for the building, cameras, lighting. There will be 24/7 staffing of the entrance of the building. There will be 24/7 staffing by Ali Forney staff in the building, specifically to serve residents. Anything they need, day or night, anybody experiencing any concerns or issues or emergencies will be addressed. I actually would suggest that the people that we are serving in this development are among the most vulnerable people in our community and in the city and in society, and are often the ones who are the most likely to be attacked and victims of crime. And so, I think the residents of the building will probably be as much concerned or more concerned about their safety than be the cause of any problems in the neighborhood, truthfully. So that's my answer about safety and security. And the broader question about where is the senior housing, I'll say Ascendant, it's on its own, and within our existing portfolio of 700 apartments, about a third of those are senior housing. We have 218 senior apartments in our portfolio already. And another one of our pipeline projects is an entirely senior development, and that will bring another 200 affordable rental senior apartments to a site that's just about 4 or 5 blocks away from this site. So we are, in our development, trying to serve as many different parts of the population of the neighborhood as we can. We have that senior development. We have this small shared supportive housing project for young people. We have 2 other projects, each of which is Well, one is 83 apartments for families, a range of apartment sizes, and another one that's over 250 apartments, all within East Harlem, all serving low and moderate income renters. So, from our perspective, we are serving a broad range of housing needs within the community. So I didn't want to pass up the opportunity to mention that this is just one project among many that we are working on.
Thank you very, very much, Chris. I'm going to keep us moving. Cindy, your hand. Thank you.
Thank you again, Isaac. I wanted to just make a quick comment. I wanted to say thank you to the developers of this project, to California for really taking the time and the effort to look at our youth, our unhoused youth. We have 26,000 of them as of the last census. I'm grateful that you're here, and I'm grateful that you're providing services to Gaylord White houses and providing support there to really uplift our senior constituents. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Anne Marie.
Hi, yes, I also wanted to say thank you. That population really needs a lot of help and support. I mean, to just comment on what Ms. Cintrone said, if we needed security, we would have to put up metal detectors in every housing and development in this community, right? I mean, we can't say that this population is going to bring more danger, violence, or whatever. I'm not sure where she's getting this information, but I think, like, I believe the gentleman, Chris, is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah, he mentioned this is the most vulnerable population there is. And so I'm happy that they're they're developing this housing here in East Harlem for this population. And the negative comments, that's not good. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Anne Marie. I am seeing no hands. I'm going to say thank you, Chris, for your presentation. I mean, as you continue to do your rounds, it would be good if you had someone from the your partner organization who could answer some of these questions. They wouldn't have you just out here on your own.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. They have been at several of the other ones. We just we couldn't get someone for this evening. And just so everybody knows, we'll be at Youth and Education Committee tomorrow. We'll be back before Land Use, Landmarks and Planning Committee on Wednesday, and we'll be at Economic Development and Culture a week from tomorrow. And then back to the full board for the vote on the ULURP later this month. I believe that's the 23rd.
So, what was I going to say? Oh, it would be good also, I'm sorry, I saw we have one more person, William Cedric. His hand was up prior to me saying what I said. I'm sorry, but I wanted to say to that point that this is a project in the making. So even if someone from their organization could come to us at some point during this year to just talk with us about, the services they provide, the provisions, and how they, will address some of the concerns that we hear.
Absolutely. We will absolutely commit to that. Our expectation is that we'll be back many times to many of the committees about this project over the next several years, and especially as we finally get it into construction and closer to being occupied. So we will definitely make sure that we can come back.
Yes, please. And I think coming back consistently keeps us up to date with any updates that happen, so that later we're not like, hey, you said this and now it's this. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much. So I'm gonna, Mr. Cedric, please.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you, Chris. So I just want to be clear. We do have other developments in our queue that we are trying to develop right now. And more importantly, we do have one that is focused on senior citizens that's bringing 220 low-income apartments to 110th and Park Avenue. This is on the grounds of Casita Park, which was built in, I believe, 2006. And this development is also projecting to renovate and connect these two buildings. So ultimately, this would be close to about 300 units. So that is also in the early developmental stages. However, we just want to be clear for this community board that we do have various realms and avenues that we are pursuing, and it isn't just directed toward a single group rather than the whole community in general.
And I'll just add, that's an ascendant project. That's the 200+ senior building that I was mentioning before. We currently operate the Casita Park Apartments at Park Avenue and 111th Street, and we are planning a new building called the Carmen Villegas Apartments that we have presented to the Land Use, Landmarks, and Planning Committee previously. That project will hopefully be starting ULURP in the fall. And we'll definitely come back to this committee and present on that one.
Thank you very much. We're going to hold you to that. It's on the record.
We're always happy. We're visiting 5 different committees while we're in ULURP in this project, which might be a record. I think there may be one committee that we haven't gone to, and it might be like open space.
Okay.
But we're happy to present to them too if they want to hear about this project.
And I will leave my information in the chat if anyone wants to reach out to me directly to gain any more information or insight into that.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Cedric. I appreciate that. And I just want to thank everybody, all of the committee members and all of the public members for a respectful conversation. I know that these are very, very sensitive issues, and safety is you know, it's a real thing. So we don't want to in any way minimize anybody's feelings, perspectives, or lived experiences, but we also do want to, you know, be respectful to everyone and figure it out. And it's the issue in everything that comes before us is a lot more complicated than it is presented to us. So we have to, you know, be willing to dig deeper to figure out how we will balance these concerns with providing, you know, enough level of supportive humanism and supportive services to everyone who needs it. Because I don't think anyone on this line disagrees with the fact that a lot of people need support, and a lot of people do need supportive services. And we can go back and forth about whether we have too many or not, but I do believe that everyone can agree that we still have issues out here. So I think it's fair to say that perhaps we maybe the programs we have are not doing what they are supposed to do or what, but we need to figure out what it is, because the issues still remain out here in our streets. And we do have a lot of programs as well. So there are valid concerns all around the board. I do want to keep us moving forward. Thank you again, Chris. We look forward to seeing and hearing from you again.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to keep this.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. I'm going to keep this meeting going. We have our second presentation from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Kenneth Giron. Did I say that right?
Hello, Reverend, and hi, everyone. Kenneth
Okay.
is not here today, but I'm here with Vanessa Lucero, so it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. Do you need to share screen?
Yes, Vanessa is going to share some slides, if that's okay with you.
That is perfectly okay with us. Perfectly okay with us.
So, thank you. Thank you, Vanessa. So good evening, everyone. Again, Reverend, thank you for the introduction, and it's a pleasure for us to be here, and good evening to all the members of the committee. My name is Hosanna Tonda. I work at the Center for Immigrant Health and Cancer Disparities. We are part of Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And tonight we're going to be talking about our mobile health unit program. Vanessa, who is a community outreach associate at our center, will be talking more about this program that was built to help communities to get healthcare access. So very briefly, I just want to mention that our center, Immigrant Health and Cancer Disparity Center, has been working for more than 12 years to identify and eliminate disparities in health and cancer treatment among immigrants and underrepresented communities. And our 5 areas of work are community outreach and education, research and policy, navigation into and through care, socioeconomic support and insurance need, and financial toxicity. So we have 2 big arms. One arm is dedicated to help vulnerable cancer patients, and the other arm is built to help community members through our community-based programs, and that's why we're here tonight. So one of our community-based programs is the Mobile Health Unit, and our programs provide a getaway to health education and services for immigrants and other medically underserved communities in New York City. We have been developing culturally appropriate interventions to address health disparities in different communities: Latin community, African community, Arab, Chinese, South Asian. And these interventions include educational programs, cancer risk reduction education and screenings, health fairs, workshops, and other programs that are tailored to the specific needs and preferences of each community. So I'm going to leave the floor to Vanessa, who is going to be talking specifically to you about this program that has been in operation for a little bit more than a year. And thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you, Hosanna. Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa. So I'm the Community Outreach Associate working with the Mobile Health Unit. So I'm in charge of kind of coordinating all their calendar events and also making sure we have a clear understanding of the workflow here. So to start off, the van was actually a gift from the US-Mexico Border Health Commission to be used as a mobile health education unit. It's an extension of our department services, like Hosanna mentioned, working with underserved communities and immigrant populations. And we do serve all 5 boroughs, and we look forward to expanding our services into Long Island, Westchester, and beyond as well. So some of the services we do have, they all relate over to preventative health screenings, preventative health screening referrals, navigation into health services, and the services that we provide on site include blood pressure, glucose, cholesterol, and BMI readings. We do have a clinician who can review their results, kind of give a brief consult, give recommendations, and also we do have coordinators on site who can help navigate into specific referrals, whether it's a PCP appointment, whether it's cancer screening, whether it is insurance navigation or enrollment. We also work to enroll individuals into NYC Care or sliding scale fee clinics, or one of the federally qualified health centers that we do have relationships with as well. Now, the cancer screening referrals tend to be our main focus because we do have the ability to schedule directly into the Ralph Lauren Center for breast, cervical, prostate, colorectal, and lung cancer screening, as well as smoking cessation for those who do qualify. And on the van, we're able to provide nutrition education, as well as referrals to maybe the other programs that we have within our department, like Hosanna mentioned, some for specific cancer patients, and then others in regards to food inequity. And we do partner with other agencies that may have other types of services that may be helpful to the community as well. And this is just a brief overview of our workflow. So we do want to better understand every person's situation, and that starts with registration and consent. They give us their contact information. We do want to make sure that we can communicate back with them if we need to follow up with them. We conduct an intake, which questions their healthcare access. They briefly goes over their cancer screening history as well as their medical history. They do proceed over to screenings, and they can, choose to deny certain screenings and pick and choose some or receive all of them. And we do have a clinician on site who is able to go over that, to make recommendations, and currently our clinician is bilingual, so speaks English and Spanish, so we're able to capture a larger and broader net of the population. And case management is something we may provide on-site if time allows for it, but often we are calling individuals, following up with them, making PCP appointments and making sure they do follow through, as well as insurance enrollment or enrollment into NYC Care. And these are just some pictures of our most recent events. The Ralph Lauren Center Wellness Day, in which they had walk-ins for cancer screening. New York Common Pantry, which is a recent partner of ours. We've been pretty eventful there as well. The Shed in Midtown, which was a kind of a resource fair for the newly arrived asylum seekers, and Union Settlement there in the Harlem area. And these are more of the sites that we do go to. We do attend food pantries within individual CBOs, as well as schools. And we do reach areas in Brooklyn, like our partner in Misteka. Yeah, so if anyone has any additional questions for us.
Thank you very, very much for your presentation. That was very fast. Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Any questions? Yes, Anne-Marie.
Hi, my name is Anne-Marie Vasquez and I work with Borinquen Neighborhood Health Center. It's a federally qualified health center here in East Harlem. You mentioned that you have relationships, so you work in partnership with FQACs?
Yes, we do.
You do. So you need to reach out to me.
There you go. Well, if you put my contact information, we sure will.
We are located on 123rd Street and 3rd Avenue across from Taino Towers. And yeah, we can talk. I'll just put my number, my cell number on the chat.
And Anne-Marie, I also added my contact information and Vanessa's contact information.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm the director of marketing, our community outreach and communications there. Just to let you know what my title is.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie.
That's my number. You're welcome. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you. Is are there, okay. Well, Cindy, thank you.
Thank you again, Chair. Yeah, my question is, I know that you guys mentioned that you collaborate and you go to different, like food market events, and you're collaborating with different organizations. Do you have any organizations that are currently focused on supporting and helping our homeless population? And if not, would you please consider doing so? As a lot of individuals that don't have access to typical screenings and checkups, they will miss initial signs and won't have the ability to actually have life-saving treatment and options because they, again, didn't have access to healthcare. So if you have any operations or any efforts already on play, or if you're about to develop it, it would be great to hear from you about it.
Yeah, so we've worked with a group in Queens that was actually a health center themselves. So it was a bit difficult. We do run into some obstacles there in regards to identification, in regards to proof of just like residency. It does become a bit difficult, but as long as we can work with an organization on like getting that handled, we're more than welcome to collaborate and provide the services on the spot. I believe that it does get a little bit easier, especially for cancer screenings in the Harlem area, because we have the Ralph Lauren Center. So community members don't have such a big issue with transportation. At the Queens Center, it was a bit more difficult to get the population over there for their appointments because of lack of transportation. But we do try and see if there is a way that we can work those issues out. But yes, we can provide those direct services, such as like the basic screenings over.
Thank you so much. I will definitely review the organizations that have presented on the committee, and I will share this information with the chair, and they'll be able to give you follow up with anyone who's actually willing to be able to support. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Okay.
So we have a question from Marlene. Is that correct?
It's not a question. I'm just asking Vanessa if you don't mind sharing that PowerPoint slide with me by email. If you don't have my email address, I know for sure Kenneth has it. I'll just put it in the chat, okay?
Oh, great. Yeah, well, you can do that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Marlene. I was actually going to, ask the same thing. I'm glad you did. Okay, great. So are there any other questions? Well, thank you guys very, very much for your presentation. Yes, is there anything you want to leave us with? Was there any?
No, just to thank you, Reverend, and all the members. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we have more programs. One of our biggest arm is ICANN Network, which is the program that we have for cancer patients. So we'll be happy to come again and then do a presentation about that program. We know that there are a lot of vulnerable cancer patients, so it probably would be a good opportunity to share this with you. But thank you again for having us, and yeah, happy to continue working with you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here, for presenting this information. It's very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to transition us into our next presentation, which would have been a discussion regarding the Nurses Association. So they came to the full board and they presented and mentioned that they needed a letter of support and they needed it for June 4th. So I reached out to them and invited them to this meeting. But Jeremy Markman, the Director of Strategic Campaigns and Special Projects, reached out to us, I think it was a few days ago, after we had sent you all the agenda, and said, due to capacity and time constraints, we will not participate in this upcoming committee meeting. We will, however, see how the next bargaining sessions go and decide if we should come to the next one. So just wanted to update you all with that. That's that. We won't have that presentation. So we're going to transition into the final part of the evening, which I believe is going to be really quick. But I just want to say thank you all for a very, very healthy selection of discussions this evening, and I'm doing so with good time. It's only 7:30. So with that, I will share screen, Marlene, if that's cool. Okay, so or rather, April, could I pull you into this equation? I saw you had little man on the screen. I don't want to bother you if he's okay. I was hoping maybe you could work through this document with me. I'll share screen, or would you like to share screen? What I really wanted to do was, so here's what I wanted to do. I was hoping we could just walk through each comment, a suggestion left on it, and decide whether we wanted to accept it or not as committee members, and we just go from there. I can just preface it really quickly with something to get us started, and then we can just get right into it. I think one thing I will say right now is that, so no one has to have a heart attack, we didn't take out anything from I don't think any of the edits or the revisions or the suggestions that were proposed take out anything. All they do is update our language to be current, but also it adds a lot more, which gives us room to advocate for a lot more of resources, contextual resources with respect to what everyone has been saying. So that is actually my preface to this conversation. So I'll let you share screen, and then we can sort of go through each comment if that's cool.
You want me to share screen?
I
Sorry,
can.
Isaac.
No, I can. I mean, what would it be better? Like if you're going to accept the changes, maybe you should share screen, or should I? It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do. I just wanted to work flow better. I'll share
No,
screen.
okay,
Is that cool?
sure. Yeah, that's great.
I'm sorry. I get indecisive sometimes. All right. So I think this is, no, that's not it. This is it. Got it. Okay, cool. All right, can everyone see my screen? I'll try to make this a little bigger in case it's not big enough for folks. Okay. Okay, so can everyone see my screen now? Is it pretty big? Okay. So again, like I was saying, there's no, nothing was really taken out of this. We just added on to it really. And thank you to everyone who contributed, just even if you just read over it and you're prepared to talk about something today. Appreciate you. And appreciate you, April, for even getting us started with the document to make the revisions. The first one has to do with the fact that as of, I believe, last week it was, maybe a few days ago, COVID-19 is not currently a global pandemic, as a global crisis anymore. So this first set of suggestions is just to update the language from is experiencing to has experienced. What I will say is if anyone has objections to us accepting any suggestions, please raise your hand. If you don't have objections, then you don't need to raise your hand. We'll keep it going. If you have a question, this is the business section. So we will be keeping this, this will be between the committee members. We do want to hear from the community, but this is something we will walk through with the committee. So yes, anybody opposed to us updating the language from we're going through a global pandemic to have gone through April year?
So I'm not necessarily objecting, and I don't want to drag get caught up on semantics. But I will just say, because we didn't have the presentation from DOH. So the World Health Organization, their big announcement last week was really that the emergency part of the pandemic is over, but we're not necessarily out of a pandemic, but it's no longer a public health emergency. Again, it's semantics. I don't have a strong preference either way, but just noting that COVID isn't finished last week.
Okay. Okay. And has so we want to keep it how it was. Anybody opposed to rejecting this comment and leaving it as it was? Nope. Okay. I'm not out there. Okay. I am going to bring Jennifer's comments into the space in this regard. She said, should this and other instances of the pandemic reflect the recovery approach now that the height of the pandemic is over? Which is why I had made those comments, but just relevant to what you said, we're fine. We can go to the next comment. I'm sorry, I asked you for your help and I'm over here doing all the work. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, so the next one, so we still just keeping it moving. We still have this was written language already in it, whereas the sitting of drug rehabilitation, chemical dependency, or treatment centers across our district is often done with little to no notice to our community. Same. The next one's still the same. Whereas, hold on. Is somebody burning something? Sorry, y'all. Smell like somebody burning something. They're not watching their food in here. So same stuff on here. Whereas there's an oversaturation of substance abuse and addiction services located in Manhattan Community District 11, as reflected in the public records, show our community hosts. So this is the same. This is the same. I won't read those because they were already there. these are these were the comments that I made. They are, I will say, in no particular order, but I do think that the ones we select and insert, we should reorganize the whereases so that they are consistent, because some of them have to do with us not receiving our fair share, then going into, you know, us not having enough resources. Like some of them are all related and they should be sort of clustered together versus like separate the way they will be now. But the first one I wanted to add was whereas the economic resources provided to Community District 11 does not come close to matching the burden this community is being forced to carry. If anyone disagrees with this comment, please raise your hand. If not, we will accept it. Okay, April, you can go ahead. I won't do that. I'll let you accept that.
Sorry, Isaac, can I just ask a question? So
Yep.
I'm clear on the process of what we're doing. So you want to read each of these now, and then if anyone objects to the comment or how it's written,
Yes.
then we'll discuss it. And if no one has an objection, then we're just going to accept it.
Yes, and then we will see if we want to entertain a motion to accept all of the revisions and additions. Yes. Time permitting. If not, we'll table it and do it next month. But we're on really good time, and I don't think anyone really are going to disagree with a lot of the stuff here. It seems like we've all kind of just said it in a lot of different ways throughout this conversation. So yeah, so that one, okay. The next one, so we are accepting this one, whereas the economic resources provided to Community District 11 does not come close to matching the burden this community is being forced to carry. Committee members, also just reiterating what April said, if you feel like there's some language or specific words we can use to strengthen some of these, please, you know, raise your hand for that. It doesn't have to be an objection. You can raise your hand and say, hey, it'd be better to use these words instead of that. The second one was whereas addiction programs, including supervised consumption sites and harm reduction programs, play a crucial role in addressing the opioid epidemic and other substance use disorders in East Harlem, Randall's Island, and Ward's Island. So to help this make sense for folks, this area of the document is where we list the issues. The next area of the document is where we make our resolution, or we make our demand, if you will. So this is highlighting an issue. The issue is, or whereas this will be the foundation for what we ask for later. Is everyone clear on this? Okay, Cindy, please.
Yeah, I just have a question. Would it be possible to combine the first and the second? You know, whereas addiction programs include supervised consumption sites and harm reduction programs, right?
Mhm.
That, and then go the economic resources provided to Community District 11 does not match the burden the community is being forced to carry. Like I feel that would be a great ending to the second one and make it one strong whereas, considering that the previous one gave some statistics about the district.
So am I correct in that we're these
So
two?
yeah, so like
Mhm.
I'm just gonna like
Go for it.
take yeah.
Go for it,
So
please. Please.
using I don't know if I can like actually taking
Can-
this bit from here to, I don't know if you can actually see me doing this, like from here to here, from the economic resources provided to force to carry, move it to the end of here, because the previous one says,
Like that?
yeah, so just make it one whereas. So it will be, not only are you reinforcing the statistics behind the previous whereas, but you'd also be outlining the issues or the beginning of the issues that we're going to be outlining after the fact.
Yes, so thank you for saying that. So here's a question I have for you all. Do you want to also order them as we organize, as we accept them? Because as Howard mentions, a lot of these are out of order right now. I was going to go through them and see if we wanted to accept them and then put them in the order, but we can do it now and put them in the order that we want to put them in. That's fine too, however y'all want to do it. If y'all want to do it that way, I think that'll cut time. So is this the order we want them to be listed in? I think it's cool. If there's no objections, we can keep it that way. And all right. So the updated language will be as whereas addiction programs, including supervised consumption sites and harm reduction programs, play a crucial role in addressing the opioid epidemic and other substance use disorders in East Harlem, Randall's Island, and Wards Island, comma, the economic resources provided to Community District 11 does not come close to matching the burden this community is being forced to carry. You know, when I was looking at this before, I was like, is there something stronger than forced to carry? That forced to bear is just like, I guess the same. I don't know. Please, April or Cindy, please just jump in. No need to raise your hand.
Oh, Cindy was first, so I'll defer to her.
Oh, I think that was an old hand, so you can go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, again, just as process, because here's where I'm struggling a little bit because I haven't read through the latest comments. Because I don't know if we had a deadline to have changes and everything viewed before tonight. So I'm just feeling personally a little unprepared because I like to have time because I haven't read through a lot of the suggestions. And so it's challenging to, because I don't even know what's coming later. And I just don't have like the big picture context of how it changes the integrity of the overall document. So I think in terms of a suggestion, for me, it would be helpful, I guess, if we paused and kind of zoomed out and got a general sense of how people felt about the document as it was, because I think most of us have reviewed it and been in it. And then if we think these additions strengthen what we're trying to do, then to spend the time to go through them and.
Okay. So I'm gonna thank you, April. I think the only way to see if the inserts strengthen it is if we actually read them. With respects to like this has been sort of like 2 months now. We've been this has been a discussion of updating this document. So folks have had an opportunity to look at the document as it has existed. The comments you are looking at today are my comments. Everyone had up until today's meeting to add their comments. I added my comments at the end up until the deadline because I did not want my comments to influence other committee members. I actually would like to see where the committee engagement is at because a lot of times the work falls back on just the committee chair and folks will just sit in vote. We don't want to do nothing different. So with respects to that, I entered my suggestions last. We can go through them now on the floor together. If folks are not comfortable, if they don't feel like it strengthens, like we had enough time with the document, we know what it is. So we can read right now in real time and talk about each one if we don't believe that it will strengthen. But I do want to entertain the time right now to make some updates to the existing document. So I don't know how much we need to pause to come out and go into another discussion about this. I think we can have the discussion as we go through these updates. We just made one update that I think strengthens the document right there. So I think we should keep going. We have I want to represent this correctly. I believe that this committee has committed to considering some true revisions and updates to this document. And if I'm not correct on that, please someone raise their hand and let me know. And we are about to go into break in June, so I don't want to keep taking time to go back into discussions. And nothing, I'm not coming at you, April. I appreciate you. I just don't want to stall us anymore because I see that we're not making progress. And right now we're at a good time in the hour, and I think we have a good opportunity to get through a lot of what we're trying to do and have the discussion during. So what I'll do to just ensure that thank you, Jessica. I see you on there as well. I appreciate you. I do want to let's keep going through this. Let's look at this next one. Written. If you're not clear on how this document is supposed to read, the whereas is set us up for down here. Be it resolved that we are calling on we are calling upon New York State Office of Addiction Services, OASIS, and other regulatory agencies to blank, blank, blank. So there were already 3 here. There are more that were added with respects to some of these additional comments, which are all inspired by what you all have been saying. So I think I don't think it's going to be too complicated. I think we can go through and we can see if this is something we are comfortable with having in or not. The next one, this one is in regards to our advocating for OASIS to step up their community engagement. Whereas community engagement and involvement, in the decision-making process related to the setting of new programs and the quality enhancement of existing programs is imperative to address local concerns and foster transparency towards establishing a collaborative working relationship between OASIS and Community District 11, which is severely affected by the programs. So this is pretty much self-explanatory. If anyone is opposed to adding this in, this just articulates more of the importance of community engagement with respects to the citing of programs, but also the quality enhancement of those programs. So if there's anyone who doesn't think or doesn't believe this will add or will enhance our document, or if they believe we should re-articulate it, please raise your hand. If not, I'm going to accept it as it is. Okay. This one is in the same vein of the last one. Whereas collaboration between addiction programs, including supervised consumption sites and other harm reduction programs and other community stakeholders, can strengthen the decision-making process by collaboratively setting goals and developing strategies for enhancing the quality of life for everyone in Community District 11. I can say that if we can leave this separate, or we could try to consolidate it with the last one, since it kind of says the same, but not the same. I think one is community engagement, other one is more about collaboration specifically and how they go about making their decisions. So it is a bit different. If anyone is opposed to accepting this as it is, or would like to make a revision to it, or doesn't think it should be added, any committee members, please raise your hand. Okay. Thank you very much, Jessica. I feel like if you're making like grammatical updates, you should not suggest them. Please just fix that language for us, because I don't think that's a significant thing. But thank you for these notes. Yep. Okay.
I had my hand up.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't look that way.
It's okay. I think
Yeah.
I'm in the not participants section, but I didn't want to interrupt. I figured I would add them as we were moving past them. But I just wanted to say thank you for going through this and for adding these comments. And just personally, I think it's important to come to an answer before the end of the session of the community board. And I think going through these one by one is a good idea, and that we can discuss them in person and engage with each other. And then I do agree that we should take the time to sit on this and allow people to make additional comments if you think that would be acceptable, so that people can mull it over for the remaining month that we have, still committing to submitting this for a vote in the next month. So I was just suggesting quickly that a couple grammatical things, but if we could just cite the statement of district needs after the whereas, talking about the resources being provided. I think it just summarizes all of the needs that are not met across the board. And then this second whereas that we just went through, I think this one deserves to be split up potentially. And it's up to you all. But I think that the second whereas community engagement involvement in the decision-making process. Oops, I keep accepting my own comments, I think. If we could take from and after community district 11, where it says which is severely affected by addiction programs, if we could separate that into a second whereas, like we just did this.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Whereas
yeah.
Community CD11 is severely affected, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then I think it might be worth, like, we hear a lot about how much these programs and just like the impact on the neighborhood. So, and I think it's important to note that we hear that and memorialize it in this, as like community board 11 is hearing from residents, and they're, I'm not sure if there's language we can add to make that clear. But that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you very much. Oh, Cindy, please. I see your hand up patiently. Thank you.
Thank you. I second what April just said. I think that's a great addition, and I was waiting until we went on to the next point, to the next whereas. So my hand was up prematurely, I guess.
Oh, oh, okay. And I think, yes, I also I do agree that here's what I was hoping the process was that we would go through these comments, and once we sort of accepted or rejected whatever edits, people did have the next month to look it over, to then be inspired by the new additions to add. Because I did not, I'm so serious, I did not want, the suggestions I made to influence people too soon. And then folks like, I'm not adding nothing or nothing. I really wanted to get a sense of where people was at. So that's why I added my comments right before the meeting. But yes, I think going through them together, talking, and then yes, because so if you weren't at full board, the resolution passed that we put here, but with I think that we would consider revisions up until June before we broke for the summer. So we do still have this month and next month to sort of vote these revisions in before our next sort of budgeting season. So with that, I'll keep us going. The next whereas was, these next few whereases have come from the research that I have been doing with respects to the links between alcohol and substance abuse and mental health. So whereas alcohol and drugs are often used as self-medicated, are used to self-medicate the symptoms of mental health problems. And for the citation here, this was actually what Donald Powell mentioned to us during his presentation in December from Exponents. When he was talking to us about the people and the work that they're doing, he said from his experience, he has seen that many people are using drugs to self-medicate some form of diagnosed or undiagnosed mental health problem. So I wanted to make sure that we included that here. Is anybody opposed to this particular suggestion? Then, okay, I see a hand. Cindy, is that a new hand? That's the hand you want, this was the one you wanted to say something about?
Yeah, this was the
Sorry.
one. No,
Go,
it's okay.
go for it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I don't have the sources with me, but I feel that it's important to add some of the CompStat data from the NYPD and have a bit of an understanding of how these are the sources of some of the challenges that our homeless and houseless population and mentally ill population is suffering through. We should add how even though these are the issues and we are acknowledging that there are some harm reduction solutions in these programs, we need to acknowledge the NYPD data. We need to acknowledge how many times or how often or how vulnerable this population is to having interactions with police because of the result of their mental health conditions and how they are coping with it, whether it's through self-medication or well, substances.
So if I'm correct, you're saying that we should we should add the CompStat data and the NYPD data in this regard to support this point?
Yes,
Okay.
because a lot of the points, a lot of the data points, a lot of the data is pointing towards that the time that people with a mental health crisis will have a point of our connection with the law enforcement, it's because of some of the results of self-medicating. So we need to acknowledge, like after you mentioned, after this, I'm sorry, I'm a visual person.
Go for it.
Which is really challenging when I'm having low vision. But after mentioning this point, before we go to the next, whereas the substance abuse, incarceration, and mental health disorders, like we need to add the data of the how often this is happening, because we are criminalizing a health crisis. So we need to acknowledge the data of what it's happening. And I'm sorry if I wasn't being very clear.
No, you was. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear on what like our assignment was. The assignment is that we need to also during our break time while people are finalizing any comments they want to add, we'll also be gathering all of our data points that we want to use to substantiate the points we're making.
Absolutely. I haven't made I haven't added to the document, but I do have notes that I'll be sharing. So thank you for being patient. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I thank you for calling it patience. I hope you all see it as patience. I'm really not trying to be an a-hole with anybody. I really want y'all to know that it's not easy doing this job. It is not. So cool. So the next one, and thank you all for your contributions and your feedback because it does really help. Okay, so here's another one. Whereas alcohol and drugs are often used. Oh, we already did that one. Sorry. Whereas someone with a mental health problem and a substance use disorder must treat both issues. So that is something that was sort of laying a platform for an act that's coming later, which will be that service providers embed mental health services in their existing programming. So that's what that was just setting the foundation for, just highlighting that although just because if you're using drugs to offset a mental health issue, it doesn't mean that if you get the mental health issue fixed that you're gonna stop dealing with the addiction. So it does the government site does note that there is a need for like this dual sort of treatment with respects to these issues. So just wanted to highlight that So okay, is that you again, Jessica? Okay. Yes, April, please.
I was just gonna say, I think, and I'd be happy to do it. I think wherever we can strengthen the data, and citing more sources, not less, because I agree with it as a statement, especially as a healthcare provider, like, yes, I think that's true. And I think when creating a document like this, rather than just referring to someone's presentation, which whether or not they're credible, great, but I just think it adds additional support to what we're saying to have more and or different citations. So I'm happy to do even those three that are there that talk about health and mental health, and see if I can find some additional and or different resources just to kind of strengthen what we're saying.
Thank you. That would be amazing and very helpful. Very much needed. Very much needed. Okay, so the next one was also there was those two. So are we fine with accepting these as they are, pending that we will get more data to strengthen them? Okay.
Hello?
Hello. Are you Mr. Hill? You are not.
Yes. Could I just add one comment?
This is actually the business section reserved for the committee members, which is why I didn't entertain your hand up. If you will.
Fair enough. This was just a data bit onto this. I would just add that so much of the data shows that childhood trauma also impacts adult substance abuse disorder. And I would recommend the committee consider adding that along with mental health disorder, because childhood trauma is strongly correlated in peer-reviewed studies about adult substance use disorder. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to put that in there.
That was a divine interruption, sir. Thank you very much. I agree with you 100%. We should absolutely include that as awareness. Give me 1 second, Jewel. I'm going to try to type that in here real quick. If no one disagrees with that. Jewel, please.
Thank you. I just had to comment on what Mr. Hill said, and also what Cindy, April said. I too had a concern about these one-off kind of comments you're using as citing someone said something, and I would prefer if there's more data provided. And so, April, I would appreciate you, whatever you can, provide in terms of data. And then what Mr. Hill said, because to make a blanket statement about, mental health is caused by this or that, there's several factors, there's many factors involved. And as the gentleman just said, one of which is, childhood trauma. So if we want a more comprehensive, accurate kind of document, then I think the citations are very important, and then the reputable citations are extremely important as well. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, I'm gonna say that with respects to the samhsa.gov's reference, that was enough for all three of those. If we just needed a citation, you can go deeper and get more if y'all wanted to. If you go through there, it's enough citation there. But also I want to not get in the habit of discrediting the people who have worked in this profession and have come and shared with us what they see in their experience, because that's what he said he has seen in his experience doing this work for the decades he has been doing it. And I think that with respects to that, that's in our minutes. That is something on the record. And I do think that we can cite our presentation if someone gives us pertinent information on the record about something. So I just want to say that so we don't get in the habit of, we can definitely get more stats, but I don't want us to discredit the people who come before us to give us information, especially when they're the ones doing the work.
And can I say, I agree with that. And we can go back what Jessica said about getting sources from community. Everybody stop there. When she talked about,
I'm sorry.
she talked about getting sources. I'm just saying, just a well-rounded. I'm not discrediting anybody. I'm not saying anyone is, less than or more than. But just want to say that
we're all on the same page. We are all on the same page. I don't think we're saying anything different. Thank you very much, Drew. With respects to this one, substance abuse, incarceration, and mental health disorders are interrelated and many times interconnected, and have the potential to produce an anxiety or apprehension towards utilizing facility-based treatment strategies. So I linked you here to a source to work that we have done in East Harlem with respects to, I actually am going to link another a specific study in there. But we did some research when I was a few years ago during my tenure at Columbia. We did some research with Exodus Transitional Community, and a lot of that research was towards looking at the social dynamics of incarceration and how that set you up or did not set you up for a social success post-incarceration. So a lot of what we found in that study were the adverse psychological effects of incarceration. So that's where this comes from. I will go with, since we are we're going to go hunt for more stats. I'll get every citation I have for that, going back into all my studies for that. And I'll put it in there. Do we want to have a limit for how many sources we have for a particular issue? So our footnotes don't get longer than the document?
I don't think, for me, it doesn't matter as much the number, just as what are we saying? Because I want to make sure that we're saying things carefully, right? Because I also am not trying to discredit who's come before us who has experience. I mean, I have experience in transgender medicine in the South Bronx. That's going to look very different than someone doing the same kind of work in Chelsea. It doesn't mean that my experience isn't valid, but I think we just want to have a robust and a holistic look at our community and what people are saying and what the issues are. I mean, I would think the preference would be to keep it as broad and as true and correct and evidence-based and data-driven as possible. Because, and I just think words really, really matter, especially in a document. So I think, the core is very good. So incarceration and mental health disorders are interrelated. They can be, they oftentimes are, but they aren't always. So not everyone who has been incarcerated has a mental health issue. Not everyone with a mental health issue has been incarcerated. And not that that's what this is saying, but I just think big picture, it's really important how we're choosing what we're saying and supporting what we're saying to be, again, as broad and as true, as accurate as possible, specific to our community.
Yeah, I agree. I don't disagree. I don't, I don't think I I mean, we can work on the language and how it's said, but this, I mean, incarceration and mental health disorders are interrelated, interconnected. We can describe it the way you said. We can also acknowledge that a lot goes on. There's a lot there. There's a lot there. That's a loaded kind of thing. I think what I can do is make that a little bit more clear. But I'll cite the, I actually I'll work on that one for you. So that's not clear because that's like, I mean, I guess like yeah, as someone who's worked in the field of incarceration for so long, I know that this is what it is, and this is how we've built a lot of our research on it. So I'll just articulate this a bit differently. And thank you, Jess. I see you added some data here too. This is cool. All right. So I think with the next one, could we talk about this one? Do we want to, Jewel, you brought this one up. Do we want to, because I do think that it is important, how do we feel it fits in this document, if it does or does not? Because initially, upon hearing it, like, yes, it does, but I don't know how much of what we're asking for at the bottom is mentioning advocacy for young people. So I don't know how much this is relevant to what the document is calling for, but I wanted to just open that up. Whatever, we can leave it, talk about it later, but that was just something that came to mind just now. I'll keep us moving. These suggestions I made relevant to what I mentioned earlier, it's not being in a public health crisis, but with respects to what you said, do we want to leave this paragraph as it was written, or do we want to accept some of these changes? Or and Jessica, you may be able to really help here. These so what April mentioned earlier. April, would you mind? I don't want to speak for you because you're here.
Yeah, no, and I think how you suggested the updates here are good. So CB11 recognized that the COVID-19, I mean, you could go, the public health crisis did exacerbate, because it did, has exacerbated, did exacerbate. Because I think those things are true and important. And again, COVID-19 is still disproportionately affecting our community. So I think it's important to say, but technically, yes, the public health emergency crisis has been declared over. So I would keep it in, and I would either just put it in the past tense. So recognizes that the COVID-19 public health crisis amplified and exacerbated.
Would you mind?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly how you feel it should go. I'm sorry, y'all. I keep forgetting y'all can see my screen. Let's move this over here. Okay. Cool.
Is that okay?
That's cool with me. If nobody has any objections, we can keep going. So yeah, no other updates on these next two ones. So these next set of suggestions came from Jennifer, and really the biggest one is she added, whereas longer distances travel to drug treatment, drug rehabilitation, chemical dependency, or treatment centers is associated with the reduction in completion of programs. This was something that was also one of the reasons, you know, some of us saw the work that Odyssey House was trying to do as a win in some ways, because they were limiting the travel for people receiving methadone treatment. They wouldn't have to go to Mount Sinai. They would receive those services in-house, so there would be no travel distance. So they would have a much higher success rate at completing services. I agree with this addition. If no one disagrees with it, we can accept it as it's written. Or maybe just edit it. I mean, therefore be it resolved, but yeah. Okay, what I'll leave that. Okay. I guess some of this grammatical stuff we'll work on. So, okay, last part, and then we can table this until next month to give people time. Thank you very much, everybody, for the work you've been doing on this. This is the part of the document where we are asking for things. This was my biggest critique about the document, which is why I suggested all of these changes, because it didn't advocate for anything we needed. You know, we spoke a lot about, you know, the issues, but we didn't advocate for anything. So here's what we are asking. We still have the initial things that were here, same as they were. I didn't change anything. I don't have any, I think we should just leave it the way it is, honestly. But the ones that I did add were so let me try to make my screen a little smaller so I can read this. Okay, so what I added was that that Community Board 11 calls upon Oasis and other regulatory agencies that have oversight over the above mentioned programs to the first one I suggested, require all Oasis authorized programs and such to provide enhanced mental health assessments and continuing supportive services embedded within addiction treatment strategies. I don't know how people feel about that. I realized that since I was working on another document, I dumped all of my suggestions in one comment. So I'll just read them all and then you guys let me know what you think. The other one I put was require all existing Oasis and authorized drug treatment centers and such to enhance their local recruitment strategies to target those individuals who are not familiar with safe drug use strategies, as well as those individuals who are not comfortable with facility-based drug use. Again, during the presentation from Exponents, he brought up something that brought me back to the research that we did on the social dynamics of incarceration, and that some people may not feel comfortable using safe treatment centers or safe injection sites because of the institutional sort of the institutional facility aspect of it, that it's a controlled facility and perhaps they don't want to re-engage with the facility as such. So I was thinking maybe organizations, drug treatment programs could enhance their recruitment strategies to specifically target folks who are still using drugs right outside. You know, I walk every day I have to walk from, I cut through 115th from Madison to 2nd Avenue because I go from the church where I'm working at to 2nd Ave to go pick up my daughter at Franklin Plaza. And 9 times out of 10, I see somebody shooting up right between Park Avenue and Lexington, right? But the crazier part is that I see the police not too far from it as well. So it's just like, and the engagement level is real low. So it's weird to me. I don't know how to, I don't know how and where we place blame there, but this is part of what I was thinking. Perhaps there could be better recruitment strategies to go out there to really try to target people who may not be comfortable using inside of a controlled facility. The other thing that I suggested was require all Oasis authorized drug rehabilitation programs and such to diligently forge collaborative relationships with one, the NYPD for the purposes of enhancing street intervention to guide those who use drugs openly to harm reductive locations, as I mentioned in the last one. Um, to establish collaborative relationships with researchers from local organizations and academic institutions in East Harlem that produce local data in order to foster participatory methods of data gathering and analysis. Joseph mentioned this, and I had already written it. He said we should tap into Hunter College right there on 119th Street. And this was the spirit behind what I was saying, that there's a lot of local organizations. Because one of the things also this dude came and said on the commissioner for the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, they kept saying, we are working with an institution. And they were very vague about who they were working with. You know, so we should put some pressure on them to work with people we have relationships with who will share data with us, you know, so we don't have to go action you, hunting you down and harassing you for a whole year for some numbers that we should have already had. And to the latter point of the researcher section, so that there we can foster more participatory methods. I'm not sure if people are familiar with participatory action research, but that is the research that includes more the the contributions of the people who are actually impacted by the data. So that means not just people who are not from our neighborhoods or communities impacted by our issues doing research on us, but that we are working in partnership with these researchers to develop the research methodologies and strategies and also analyze the data together. You know, because sometimes it's not even that the study was done wrong. Sometimes people report back the information wrong. You know, it's a lot of different things that goes down with research that validates it or invalidates it. Research is a very funny thing, and it's used in this way to allocate resources in a very arbitrary way. So it's important that we get ahead of research in this part, and also that all rehabilitation service providers forge collaborative relationships with referral organizations for the purposes of providing indirect access to emergency support for housing, career development, or other social services. So that is the crux of what I believe we should be advocating for. More collaboration, more intervention, I think street intervention, and more research and you know, just better quality of programming. I think we should call Oasis to put more pressure on existing organizations to enhance the quality of their services. Because if we are saying we have an oversaturation, then we're saying we already have enough programs. We have too much. So then that means that what the ones we have here are not doing the right thing, or they're not doing enough. So perhaps the advocacy should be that these existing organizations, you know, step it up, and here's some ways that they can step it up. So with that, I'm gonna be quiet, and please let me know if you have any thoughts, comments, suggestions, critiques about these points of advocacy. Yes, Drew.
So just when you say the NYPD, do you mean a special unit?
Yes, let's put that. Yeah.
Because,
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Is that better? A special unit of the NYPD. Oh, Cindy, please.
Yes, hi. So it should be noted that there is the unit was where is Homestat. They are collaborating with the NYPD currently. They are receiving funding from the NYPD's budget and the city's budget. It's important that when we make this request, that when we're looking at the efforts that are being put forth by you know, law enforcement agencies, or even Oasis itself, that we take a look at the actual background of the program that they are discussing, or which task force they're assigning to our district, because a lot of resources that are supposed to be reaching our communities are not, because they will place a unit, for example, in this district for a period of 2 to 3 months, then switch out that unit into another department or transfer them out and still receive the full funding as if they've been doing it the whole year. So it's extremely important, and they're receiving additional funding for services that aren't being provided. So please be very mindful of the breakdowns of the task force and special units that you'll see from law enforcement.
Okay. With that in mind, before I go to other hands, I see, do you have any suggestions on how we can sort of enhance this portion to maybe say something to the effect of to make more transparent existing collaborations, stuff like that? Would you be able to help in here over the next 30 days to help in this area to like do, you know what I'm trying to ask?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be, I've been working on the notes and reviewing a lot of the document. So I will have additional notes and data, especially in regards to law enforcement, and because I've been reviewing the current budgets for the precincts in this district. I reviewed the city council budget, and I also reviewed the governor's budget, and there's a few things that aren't making a lot of sense. So since I've been taking in so much information, I tend to take a little bit longer to process said information. So again, thank you for being patient with me as I'm processing this, and I will definitely have it for you within the next week.
No,
Thank you.
No, thank you. And thank you all for your patience here and us going through this. We almost finished, and we will table this and then resume our evenings. But April, please.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and I don't know if this is helpful or not, and sorry for the background noise. I'm not sure what's happening outside. I guess when I think of a moratorium in general, I think of it as separate than these additional points that you added. I love the points that you added because I sense the humanity and the spirit of advocacy and ensuring quality care, right? And it's ensuring this standard. And I could be wrong, but I guess when I think of the moratorium, it's a stop, pause, and do these things. And I think some of the things that you outlined are, again, it's words, but are more nuanced of, enhanced mental health assessment. As someone who does mental health assessments, I don't even know necessarily what you mean by that or how I'm being held accountable to that. And I guess my suggestion, and take it or leave it, would be that maybe we take out some of those quality assurance measures and those advocacy pieces, and we have that in a different document. So in this moratorium, we have, the points that we had. So items 1 and 2, and then what's now 6, which was 3 before. And in that current point that's labeled as number 6, so requiring all new and existing people to come before us and share the current status and future goals. That's really, maybe we put in an additional like 30 days and then 120 days, or 30 days, 90 days, 120 days. And then in those presentations, that's where we kind of, activate this other, but how are you doing what you're doing? How are you measuring what you're doing? What is the data? What is the research? What are the numbers? And we really use that time when we're saying you have to come back and present and update to ensure the quality is there. Anyway, wild thought, but
No, not a wild thought. Not a wild thought. Actually, a good process. I feel like we've taken that process and we're sort of at the process now where we need to, we're at the point now where we need to be asking for something more than just people come before us and tell us about their programs. Because at the end of the day, that's all it's really asking. So I came back to the top of the document because the moratorium is on sitting any new rehabilitation programs. And some of the points we lead off with is that, again, there's an oversaturation of programs. So what does, I mean, coming to before us to tell us about your issue, tell us about your program doesn't address the issue that we feel that there's an oversaturation of programs. So that means that in essence, we're saying there's a lot of ineffective programming. So we should be within this document advocating for some of what we want to see in the programs that already exist. So that's where, that's a lot of where that's coming from. Now, again, if you all don't agree with that, please let me know. But I don't believe, even adding, I don't believe what was there already is getting us anything more than just visits. And I don't think visits is all we want from Oasis. I think that we want more from them. We want them to double down on, who they letting in our community and the people who are already there, they got to go for reauthorization. So you should, things like that, how do we, because although, they won't grant us a moratorium, they are hearing us and they see what we're putting out and they see our energy. So I do believe that with respects to the impact that we have been able to have with what was already written, getting people here, I think we can take that next step forward boldly and say, hey, we want you to, and we can be more clear about what mental health assessments mean. But what I really mean is really like, doing real assessments, not just a form you fill out like we do traditionally. And if it means articulating that in this document, we can, but I didn't want to go to the extent of trying to figure that out for an organization as much as just put out there some direction in which we would like to see them going. So again, I hear you. So please let me know what you all think, but that's just the spirit behind what I'm thinking. I think we could ask for a little bit more if we're saying that we got a lot of programs here that are not really helping, So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh.
Please.
No, I was just gonna say, I hear your spirit and we're 100% on the same page and want the exact same thing, because I hear you on the 115th Street, all of it. I guess what being on the same page, I think we would all agree that what we don't want to happen is to put down words that create this rigid framework that are just more tick boxes for people to do. And it's, okay, you want me to have a relationship with someone in NYPD? Cool, I did that. You want me to say I'm targeting people who don't know about safe injection sites? Okay, well, we reached out to 10 people who said they had never heard of this. So, because we don't want people just ticking boxes, right? We want people really doing quality, meaningful work. And so I guess where I'm coming from is, how can we best motivate and inspire and hold accountable the people who are doing the work beyond just saying, use a better assessment? Well, what does that mean? And how are we ensuring quality? And what measures are we using? And how, do you get what I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, you are making sense. You are making sense. I think we do that by being clear about what we want from Oasis, and I think we have to be clear about, because the check in the box concern is a concern. I feel like just with coming to the board is to check the box, like I feel like if all you got to do is come before us 120 days, everybody do that. That's so easy to do. So I think if they're going to check off boxes, let's put some boxes there that'll actually help us. So if they're going to go through that process, then check off some stuff that'll help. I don't know, but I feel you on that. I do feel you on that. I felt like initially with respects to that, April, I felt like, what we were asking them on number 2 was a whole lot. And it's like, they're not going to do that. And they probably won't ever do it. But you know what they did do? They started coming before us more. So maybe they won't do all of these things, but I do think with respects to what they see we are asking them for, they will do some of it. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, let's bring us Indy into this.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Well, here's the thing. There's I don't even remember in which meeting this was brought up, but possibly actually having a liaison within the community board committee that has an understanding of the structure and the challenges that not only our constituents are facing, but also from a perspective of being in the industry would be extremely helpful. So if we are unable or aren't able to create a structure right now that fully serves for the long term of what we want to accomplish, at least let's set a bit of a benchmark, a little bit of a someone who will take on the responsibility of following up on some of the requests that we will be making. So on the long, I'm thinking like 5 years down the road, you know, like when we do request the data and they give it to us, when we do understand the challenges and the services that are being provided, when we do actually have them collaborating and talking to one another, what then? How will the board continue to elevate and understand the challenges that our community will be facing? So I know that this document, this working document is something that, you know, I believe in this document, it's extremely important because it's allowing our community to be heard in a way that typically they would not. So possibly creating a liaison that knows the ins and outs and has a vested interest in the community would be a great ask. And I'll put that on the notes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac.
No, thank you. I appreciate you all adding in here. Xavier.
Evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for a robust conversation. To kind of give a little bit of background, Oasis for years and years and years until this document was enshrined, refused to come before the board or even engage in a high-level meeting such as the 125th Street Task Force. They were very reticent and only showed up twice. So I think you're getting a lot of good traction. There are a lot of good asks. Recommendations that I can see are citation, which has already been referenced by several members, and going deeper to the citations within a particular document as you go several levels deep, as we've seen within DOH-MH white papers. I think it's a good recommendation to wait until next month so everyone has time to review and go over everything and wordsmith it, as it were. So I want to say thank you for leaning in and having the deeper conversations on how we can develop assets for this community. And thank you for those that did make it out to CCHP's ribbon cutting. I think that's an example of a model that is doing a great job and has been here for 63 years and is leaning in a holistic, intergenerational fashion for healing. So there are many models, and I think, Isaac, you hit the nail on the head, as did April and others, about what are our metrics and how do we measure success. So these are things to consider as we ask for resources. As it comes to NYPD, they are referring people, again, I don't know the particular people that were on patrol because we've been pulling other resources into the district to the 2325 and PSA 5. I can't say in that particular instance, but if you do know, and there are issues as community leaders, all of us 50 members strong, can say, hey, by the way, we saw this, could you please refer them for whatever reason, you know, say, hey, I observed this, they need help. They're instructed, and if they're not doing their due diligence, then we have to activate on that. So again, I look forward to this continuing the discussion next month. There's a lot of good ideas that I see being fleshed out in real time, which is great to see a working document kind of go to. It gets the internal nerd in me very excited to see people working in that. So that's, I look forward to that. And I'm here as a resource in any way, shape, and form. And it may even be useful, Isaac, as a recommendation to this committee, if everyone feels up to it, to meet in person, because you can accomplish so much more in person than you can in a virtual environment. But allowing the public also to the opportunity to opine at next month's meeting would be helpful to the discourse, as we have done in the past with previous editions of this resolution and other resolutions on behalf of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier. Thank you very, very much. If we don't have any, thank you for that context and all of that. I think this was a really good meeting. If no one else has any burning things to say, I wanted to table this and allow us to, I saw some hands from a few people in the community section go up and go down. I don't know if you had any final comments, but I think as far as this document is concerned in this discussion, we're tabling this. As it is right now, please, everyone has had an opportunity to see what is there. Please wordsmith it. I think, to be honest with you, this was the crux of what I was hoping we could get in, some real understanding of the issue and then some advocacy as it related to the understanding of that issue. So however you all see fit over these next few weeks, we can work this document together. I don't know if we want to, I'll email the committee separately and we can see if we want to have a working meeting or something where we're just like, just on the call trying to work out the language for this before we come back, so that we're not doing it on the committee's time or any of those things. I'm happy to do. But I think this document looks like way better than it did before, just with respects to the smallest additions. So I think we can go ahead and just breathe and take the opportunity to, now that we have a sense of what revisions look like, what updates look like, let's go back in our bag and strengthen our citation, strengthen the language around what we're saying, and ensure that there's substance in there and it's not like April said, just words, and that there is, this is updated and it's ready for real-time advocacy. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing screen, Marlene. I'll let you go back and share screen. Can I call on, I know it's a little out of order. Hold on, let me go to the, what's the, sorry. Can I take this opportunity, Tamika, all right, can you hear me? Tamika Mapp?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, I had called on you earlier to give an announcement, and I was wondering if you wanted to give that announcement now. I also wanted to say on the record, thank you for your document, because it did very much inspire a lot of the suggested comments that I particularly brought to this document. So thank you very much for your wordsmithing too.
You're welcome. This Thursday, the State Democratic Party, the State Committee men and women across the state is meeting together for our spring meeting. I have a resolution to amend the mental hygiene law in New York State to prohibit addiction programs, supervised consumption sites, and harm reduction programs from operating within 500 feet of schools, public parks, libraries, place of worship, and licensed cannabis business. I'm hoping, I got 12 state committee men and women throughout the state of New York to sign on to the resolution. And I will be announcing that on the floor on May 11th. When I come back on June 4th, I will report to see if they're going to pass the resolution on May 11th. And then I'm going to come back and ask for a letter of support so I can get it to Senator Claire, Senator Serrano, and our assembly members to see if we can craft some proper legislation around it.
Thank you very, very much, Tamika. And I will I will share that document with the committee so they can read it, because I think that'll also inspire them as we are drafting our resolution.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for doing that.
No, thank you for your work and thank you for staying on with us. Okay, so with that, we can transition to what's next on our agenda. No new business? Nope, I don't think we have any new business. All right, with that, everyone, thank you very, very much for great conversation. I hope that everyone feels good about the progress we made. I really appreciate everyone for leaning in and you know, please, I know that I have a very strong opinion, but I can never get this work done without you all's feedback and input. So thank you very, very much for challenging and just criticizing and questioning, because that's what we should do to make sure we get to the right places. So thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's contributions and additions, revisions, suggestions on this document. Let's keep in mind, though, as we go into this bag, we do want next month to be the final month we're looking at this. So let's not come back and then want to go back into break, because we don't have months to break, So if we can be prepared as much as possible to do this work, and even if we want to do it before we have our presentations for next month, however y'all want to do this, I just would like for us to get it done before we go on break. So with that, I will be quiet. Thank you very, very much, everyone. And have a blessed evening. Marlene, may you please do roll call.
April Autry,
Present.
Juhab Chowdhury, Otendi Garcia,
Present.
Brandon Gillespie,
Present.
Jill Jones,
Here.
Jennifer Myers excused for this meeting, Arturo Perez,
Present.
Isaac Scott,
I'm present.
Robin Stration,
Present.
and Anne Marie Vasquez.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, have a good night. I'll see you all at full board.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Good night, all.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Cool.